always listening to it and accessing information from it, and people who are psychics, people who are geniuses, people who are healers, they're just listening a little more carefully and not second-guessing the information as it comes in. So
Eric,
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No. Go ahead. Step it up.
I was just going to say, so we're here sharing this field. So as the practitioner steps into this space and begins to feel these sensations and returns to that natural vibration of light that they are, it's shared in this field, and this communication goes off inside the other person receiving the work, the recipient. And a little voice, shall we say, figuratively speaking, goes off and says, hey, I remember this. This is me vibrating as light. I think I'll do it again. And as they return to that vibration of light, anything denser than light, anything heavier than light, which tends to include our health challenges, it has nothing else left to hold on to. So if appropriate for that person at that point in time in their life, that density simply falls away. And healing is just that simple. And anything, whether you're trying to collapse a wavelength or visualize a project or anything that you do or any crystal that you add, anything more complicated than that is designed to sell us something.
I suspect, Eric, that the ancients knew this quite well.
Absolutely.
Somewhere along the line, we forgot about it. How come? How did we lose it?
Well, money is a good reason. Everyone wants to sell you something.
Yeah.
Everyone's got the newest necklace to protect you from electromagnetic frequencies or from entities in the subways. You know, one guy took my seminar 4 times with his wife and his business partners, talks about no technique, and at the same time teaches that you need to place one hand here, one hand there, collapse a wavelength, then bring it in a certain color frequency to heal another situation. And if you buy a necklace for only $200, then as new information gets accessed from the universe, you will automatically download it. I mean, give me a break. You have to either transcend the technique or not. You can't just speak the words. It's like going into a restaurant and ordering New York cheesecake from the menu, and most of the time you get cheesecake, but it's not New York cheesecake, and you know when it is and you know when it isn't. And using the words is just not sufficient. There's a reason to sell us something. The problem is we're not always clearly aware that there's nothing that we can buy, because the answer isn't outside of us. It's only when we access inside. It's like that old story of the 3 angels looking to hide the secret of humanity. And the first one said, I know, let's hide it on the highest mountaintop. And the other said, no, eventually the human will climb the mountain. And another one said, let's bury it in the ocean. And the other 2 said, no, eventually the human beings will learn to swim the ocean. And the third one said, I know. Let's hide it inside the human being themselves. They'll never look there.
That is something. It is got to be one of the world's greatest gifts for people who begin to learn this, understand it, and practice it in their everyday life. Now, I know you don't know why and you don't know how, but I'm going to ask you to guess. What do you think this is?
I believe that we are evolving and have always been, as humanity, along a continuum. Everything really is a continuum, but we see freeze frames. This is the reason that time appears linear to us. We see a beginning, we see a middle, we see an end, we see one perspective. But I believe we're evolving on a continuum, and we speak about, ghosts and spirits, and we speak about trapped entities, and we speak about healing guides and extraterrestrials, and we speak about all of these things as if they're different, and some are desirable and some are undesirable. We see them through a polarity of good or bad, and we see some through a design of we don't know, which of course is a question mark, which of course we view as fear. The reality, I think, is that they are all us. I think when someone dies, we experience a ghost, we experience them maybe being present with us on that level. But they exist in all dimensions at once. So we also can experience a great-grandfather or great-grandmother, as a guide or a presence in our life. They don't have to walk around looking like a ghost or an apparition. I believe that when we experience the concept of people from other dimensions, from in space, that there really is an awareness. I mean, the fact is, somebody, somewhere, some intelligence in this planet, in this universe, turned over 50 of my patients into living, breathing radios or broadcast systems for that 3-month period of time. So someone exists somewhere. And the way I view it is pretty much similar to if you talk to someone who's had a life after death experience. They usually say that as they're moving towards this light, they see everyone who has ever played a role in their lifetimes. And they see and suddenly recognize them not just from the most recent lifetime, but from other lifetimes as well. And they're often seemingly standing along on the sidelines, pointing in the direction of the light. They're encouraging them to continue, sort of as if you've just, run a marathon race and you're coming up into the last 100 yards to the finish line and the crowd is standing there cheering you on. No one's going to get out and run the race for you, but they're there to encourage you. And no one is going to, jump out of the sidelines when you're on your way to that light and pick you up in a little sidecar on a motorcycle. You still have to do it yourself, but they're there to encourage you. I believe that we truly are on the precipice of human evolution. There may really be something as a main transition point around 2012 or around this time, and that we're truly on a precipice of human evolution. And so along the spectrum, though that part of humanity that has moved further ahead, that has evolved further ahead of us, is now looking back at us and cheering us on and encouraging us. We still have to make the transition. We have to make the right choices. We have to move away from global warming into global greening. We have to recognize that no matter what excuse we give, there just absolutely never is an excuse for someone to strap on a bomb belt and kill innocent people in a party. And the fact is, those people who die are innocent, whether or not we see it ourselves. And we have to learn to move through war and to move through some of the poor decisions that have been made. But they're here encouraging us to do it.
Will we be able to? What a civilization we've had on this planet, Eric. They've done nothing but war ever since they were here.
Yeah, but they're not warring the way that they were. They're warring worse in some ways.
True.
But they're spending more time in negotiation in others. It's a challenge. It's not here, George, to be easy. If it were here to be easy, then, people wouldn't need you for the important role that you're playing right now. You'd be off doing something else. They need you to be able to be sharing these things with the rest of your listeners so that they recognize they've got choices and decisions to make, because we're here for our lessons. When it's easy is when we've transitioned a lifetime.
Well, that is so true. So we're going to take phone calls with you when we come back. What are some of the problems that reconnective healing has been able to solve? Everything? I mean, bad liver problems, kidneys, you name it?
So far, there's nothing that I believe that will not respond to reconnective healing. I have seen tissue regenerate overnight. I've seen brain tumors vanish. I've seen people with strokes who are unable to move fully regain their range of motion. And the funny thing about the reconnective healings are that almost, and I am saying almost, but almost every single time that healing is for a lifetime. What we have to remember is that it is not the disease process, however, that has the healing. It's the human being. And so 3 people can come into you with the same set of symptoms, the same diagnosis, and receive 3 different sets of results depending on what is appropriate for them at that point in time in their life.
When we come back, we'll take phone calls with Dr. Eric Pearl next on Coast to Coast AM. Fascinating discussion tonight with Dr. Eric Pearl, and we'll be back with Eric in a moment and your calls on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. We'll go to calls with Dr. Eric Pearl in just a second. Eric, back to your practitioners there. How many are out there now? 12,000 you're saying? Or that must be growing.
No. We've trained over 60,000 practitioners.
60,000?
Yeah, 60,000. The book, it's called The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself. It's in, I believe, 33 languages by now.